Alrighty, it is 6 p.m. and we do have a quorum. I'm going to proceed to call this evening's meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals for the City of Florence to order. First item on this evening's agenda is approval of the minutes from the July 27, 2023 meeting. City staff has sent these minutes to board members of the board with ample time for review. Are there any amendments or addendums to the minutes? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to either approve or disapprove.
I'll make a motion that the minutes be approved.
Second.
Thank you, sir. We do have a second as well. Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. The second item on this evening's agenda is BZA 2023-09, and this is a variance request, a request for a variance from the setback requirements for a commercial building listed in Table 2-6.1.1. The location is 351 East South Village Boulevard. The tax map number is 90094-01-013. Owner of record is Jabali Family Limited American Luxury Coach. The applicant on file is Henry Simpson, and the zoning district is commercial general. The board will now hear from city staff.
All right, good evening, everyone. Good to see y'all. So this is 351 East South Village Boulevard. This is the campus of American Luxury Coach. They do motor vehicle customization, and they would like to expand their operation to include another building. So this is located off of South Irby Street and also fronts East South Village Boulevard. It does have some parts of the parcel that are in the county, but what we're focused on tonight is in the city limits and is zoned commercial general. This is the future land use map. It is consistent with the proposed use, commercial auto urban, and a floodplain map, which we'll reference a little bit later, which does affect the parcel proposed for construction. So here is the table that was referenced a little bit earlier for commercial general zoning district. For the commercial general zoning district, you have a 50-foot front setback, a 20-foot side setback, 40-foot rear setback. The applicant is requesting for the front setback to be 35 feet, the side setback to be 4 feet, and the rear setback to be 5 feet. And then the next graphic will show what that's going to look like. So this is what the building would look like if the current setbacks were observed. As you can see, the blue portion on the map is floodplain. So the building, if it were to meet the setbacks, would be hindered by construction in the floodplain and would limit the size of the structure. Here is what the applicant is proposing with the variance request. The building is more in line with the rest of the campus aesthetically. It keeps the construction out of the floodplain. And again, it does list the requested setbacks there on the side. So for the findings of fact for this variance, meeting the current setbacks would result in an awkward placement of the new commercial building compared to the rest of the campus. This would maintain the symmetry in relation to pre-existing structures. It would keep the building out of the floodplain, and the location of the building towards the back of the campus would be set up against a CSX railway, and if visible at all from South Irby Street, would have a very minimal impact on the streetscape. So that does conclude staff's report.
Thank you, Derek.
Thank you.
Is there any questions from members of the board for the city staff at this time?
Because the building will be right there at Six Track, will it be, any of it be on their property?
No, ma'am, they will not. They are requesting the 5 foot from their property line, CSX's property line, where you can see it does look like they have some vegetation to buffer it from the rail line, and then there is an ample amount of space before you get to the tracks themselves. And where they're proposing the location, it would not impact any residential uses in the area.
Has there been any calls in regards to the zoning signs that y'all have had?
Not that I'm
Posted?
aware of. No, sir.
Obviously, the public. Nobody's come in, so
It appears
very
that way.
minimum at the very least.
Yes, sir.
Is there any other questions for city staff at this moment from the board member?
Yes, ma'am.
Has any testing been done, because you said if you just move it back so many feet from the floodplain, has any study done, erosion thing that gets closer to water?
Right. They will have to put in place stormwater best management practices to prevent sediment from leaving their site and going into the floodplain, especially, or getting onto other properties. The worst thing that would happen is some sort of chemicals on a construction site get into soil, and then during the rain, the soil moves onto another property. So there are city ordinances in place, and as regulated by DHEC, to prevent stormwater from leaving their site and going onto another site.
Yes, Derek, I do have a question. You indicated that they were asking for 4 feet on either side. Now, I could understand well, first off, is that 4 feet from either side?
4 feet from the
The east-
north side.
Okay, that'd
just
be
the
north and
side.
south.
They want to get closer to the north side. The floodplain's on the south side, so they are just simply shifting the building away from the floodplain. It will not be impacted.
And the eastern side, that would be, they're asking for, okay. The eastern side, that'd be 5 foot, and
5 feet, yes, sir.
okay, and the western to be 30, reduced to 35 feet.
Reduced to 35 from 50.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm trying to indicate where on the southern side,
If we'll put up the graphic, Patrice.
yeah, that'd be great. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, on the southern side, where they're asking for 4 feet.
So the southern side, they do not need a variance because they'll be able to meet the 20-foot side setback. So they're only asking for the side setback variance of 4 feet on the north side.
Okay, so not for the south. The south, they're not asking
for
for
the
it.
south. No, sir.
From the north side, it would be in line with the buildings that he already owns. He owns the property. We're trying to have 4 foot setback from he already owns it. And he owns the ones across the street that are already at that 4 foot.
We'll get you up and get you on record saying that, and that way we'll have more questions for you. That'll be fine. Thank you, sir.
Just want to clarify.
We'll get you up there and clarify. Thank you. Any more questions for city staff from the board at this time? There being none, thank you very much. And
Thank you.
there being no other questions for this board, we'll now hear from the applicant. Are you the applicant, sir?
I'm the applicant, I'm the contractor.
Okay, you come on up here and state your name so you can be sworn in. This is a semi-legal hearing.
I'm saying
Okay, so please state your name.
Henry Simpson.
Mr. Simpson, okay, you are the applicant on file. Mr. Simpson, do you promise that the testimony you're about to give us is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
100%.
Thank you, sir. You may proceed with your testimony to the board.
Okay, so the setbacks we're requesting are to make we call it the campus. It's the American Luxury Coach campus. Mr. Jabali owns the property on all around except for the rear setback, which is owned by CSX, there is a really big ditch that he thought was his property line, center line of the ditch, that's probably another 20 feet from the actual property line, if that makes sense. There's a stormwater ditch that runs parallel with the railroad track that we still have from where we want to place the building. We still have significant distance to that ditch. He's made a statement to me that CSX uses his property, access from his property to get to their switch gears, and he has a really good working relationship with CSX. So, so really, in all honesty, when it comes to the setbacks, the only person that could be affected or entity would be CSX, because he owns land on north and south side, and he's just trying to make it symmetric with what he owns. Because if it doesn't show it, but that property on the north side is a narrow strip. It's the road that he owns the road as well, and he built that road. And that property is just, it could probably be surveyed as one piece with everything else, but it's a strip that he owns as well that covers that road on the north side. He owns the road all the way around. That's about it, I guess. Is there any questions for me?
Anything else? Yes, sir. We will get to that questions, but any other comments in regards to it?
I don't think so. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. Are there any questions for the applicant from members of the board? Derek, could you put up that what y'all just had?
Sure.
Yes, perfect, absolutely, great. I do have one question, Mr. Simpson. They indicated they want to align the building so it's oriented in shape with the other ones. Is it in line with the most northern building? I guess that would, yes, sir. That'd be the most northern building heading northwest.
Yes, sir. It's supposed to be in line with the most northern building. It's actually supposed to be in line with the southern building too. It doesn't look that way in that drawing.
Yeah, I have a map that there's two different ones. One shows this in line with the one closest to it, the smaller one below it, and then on another map we have one which you just indicated.
And Mr. Jabali, again, he owns all this land around, and he told me a story of way back in the day. His father wanted him to make this thing symmetrical. I mean, that's his goal really, is he just wants it to be in line in case he was to ever try to tie the buildings together or something like that one day. That's the goal, just to keep it symmetrical, look right, look proportional on his property. Again, he owns all the property. It's just split up, and because the person he bought it from sold in pieces at the time. He has no intentions of ever selling any of it. He's, will be giving it to his family, but it's just not the setback rules. Other than CSX is set back off of his own property.
I have a question. It says edge of pavement. That pavement, is that like a sidewalk or something? Or it's just paved in that area?
That's the pavement for the road. The road between the other building across the street. There's a parking lot across the street already. They park vehicles where you see them on the overlay. But so there would be parking. That's the road. I guess he's trying to he drew this out to have it where we park, drive through and park either way. Is what that is.
Yeah, it appears they'll use the existing parking against the proposed building.
Yes.
Yes.
And it won't have any effect on the railroad.
No, ma'am, not at all. There's a long, if you notice, the railroad's way up here. There's a huge ditch where it says, where you see the 5-foot rear setback, there's a really big ditch. He forever thought he owned the land to the center line of the ditch, and then when we started looking at things, he actually didn't.
Okay, so where the setbacks is set, y'all be going into the property of CSX?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
We're still 5 foot off the rear of the property.
That's the actual square footage of how long and how y'all will want the building to be.
I measured this off, and I measured it off. I think it's a little disoriented because of maybe an angle, from the view overhead. But 470 was the distance between the outer edge of the existing buildings is why that distance is there. So that should be in line with outer edge of the existing buildings. I measured that myself at 470, so I don't know why it looks the way it does now.
The outer edge of both buildings, or just that building
If
on
I
the
had
top?
in line with the top building and then the bottom in line with the bottom building.
And at that point, it wouldn't be going into the floodplain.
No, man. And that's the reason why we put it on that property, because he originally wanted to put a building here. We have an engineer working on that, because it's called a floodplain, and I promise you, he has videos from our huge, what we have a flood in '08, was it, or something massive like 1,000-year storm. He took videos where there was no water standing on his property. It's just, the flood map show it there. There's a really big ditch down here too. Your city honestly has an issue with the storm drain across Irby Street. It's not big enough. So people across the street were flooded out. He had no water standing on his property, and there's really big drains under the railroad track. There's 2 5-foot culvert pipes under the railroad track. We're at the state level now trying to actually develop this below. But, that's a process that takes time. But Mr. Jabali has an opportunity to generate a lot of jobs by building this building, by customizing Jeeps is what he's trying to do. He already does Chevrolet, GMC, and Dodge, but Jeep he thinks will be bigger than all of those. But that's the goal. This Jeep has talked with him and given him the okay. He can get the facility to start customizing Jeeps, and that's what we need this building for. And it's going to generate a lot of jobs.
You mentioned the 1,000-year floodplain. I believe it's 500. They do 500-year floodplains.
Okay.
And so the southern, I'm sorry.
I apologize.
No, that's fine. No. You were in the ballpark. It's not too far. So the southern, y'all are not asking for any variance for the southern portion, just the eastern, northern, and the western, correct?
Yeah, if you notice, the property line actually cuts across here, so this whole area is actually county, but it's the same lot, I wish I had a pointer I'd show you, but where it juts out, goes in that road, it goes straight down the road, so all that's actually the same lot. There's no variance on that southern side.
Because it's county.
Like maybe because it's county, but it's the same lot. It's part of it's in the county, part of it's in the city. It doesn't show. If you clicked on it on the GIS maps, you would see it goes down the side of the road, and it's a much bigger lot. Yeah, that's it. So the building, the southern side is here, right? So that's all. That was still that same lot.
So are you asking for a variance for the southern side as well?
I didn't.
No.
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 Understood. Yeah, there's two on page 13 and page 14. It's a little misleading when you look at the building. It's a little bit further down, and on page 14 it's further up.
Right. They
So
will
it's-
have to observe these. If the variance is granted, they will have to observe these setbacks. Regardless of the visual representation, they will have to observe these setbacks.
You were explaining it excellently. It's just when you look at the map, you couldn't tell where it was going to actually be.
Right.
So you were doing your job. So
Thanks.
And I have a question for the staff. So when we was talking about what they would have to build because of the floodplain, is that a requirement that's mandatory? That's something that they would have to put in there?
Right, for the stormwater best management practices, that's a requirement
Okay.
for any construction.
Are there any other questions for the applicant from members of the board? All right. There being none,
I'll make a motion to approve the variance.
first of all, you may step down. Thank you so much, sir. Sure, appreciate your testimony. All right, there's anybody else who wishes to be heard either for or against the variance request? All right, there being none, we will now, the board will entertain a motion to either approve or deny the variance request.
I'll make a motion to approve based on the items required to be considered, looking at the shape of the parcel and location of the property lines, that I don't see any concerns relative to those matters, and appreciate the building being consistent with the current lay of the land and buildings out there, that the spirit of the ordinance will be observed and public safety and welfare secured and substantial justice done, and that the placement of the new building where desired maintains symmetry in relation to pre-existing structures without affecting any residences or other commercial development, especially considering the effect that the area is a large, diverse commercial parcel and not visible from South Irby Street. There are, this is a large and oddly shaped parcel, and only this portion of the parcel is in the city limits, and other portions are in the floodplain, thus unavailable for development, and thus goes to the point of extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to this particular piece of property. Parcel is not a standard size or shape. The rear of the lot abuts the railroad as discussed, and the applicant owning the surrounding commercial property certainly is material, and these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity, and that while adherence to the required setbacks would not prohibit the owner from constructing a new building, it would result in an awkward, non-attractive layout in relation to the other structures that are part of the same company. Again, this goes to the point that the application of the ordinance to particular properties would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict utilization of the property. And finally, that the building not being visible from South Irby Street, permitting the requested setbacks, does keep the building character with existing structures and the overall American luxury coach campus. So the authorization of the variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property or the public good. The character of the district will not be harmed by granting of the variance.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We do have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. The variance request is approved. Next item, we're done with your case, and you're more than welcome to sit, or you can leave. Next item on this evening's agenda is no more items on this agenda. So is there any updates from city staff at this time?
Not at this time, no, sir.
All righty. Well, then do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your attendance.